Greetings, Shalom, Salam Alaikum. This is Minister Shot Nakuti Ben Israel, known on Facebook as Shot Nabiddle, speaking to you live today. I'm broadcasting this on the 12th, but actually this broadcast was designed for September 11th. This is part of the Ye Shall Know the Truth series. We always start off with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to speak to your people. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be accepted in thy sight. Let the words come forth in your name, and let the people know the truth at all times. Amen. Just give you a little background. I was a journalist, and some folks, are questioning my authenticity. You can double check anything. You just lose my slave name, Chester Biddle Jr., and look it up. I graduated from University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, in 1979, 80. And then I entered the graduate school of Howard University. I got transcripts that I can show people if people who doubt. But people who going to doubt, they're going to doubt anyway. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to go forward in the name of Yah. Any rate, I was an undergraduate student at the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. I did a documentary down in Tupelo, Mississippi. I got some awards for this documentary on the civil rights movement in Tupelo. I profiled Reverend Alfred Skip Robinson, the head of the United League of Mississippi. I traveled there as a student in 1978, and the film was shown at the Alternative Cinema Conference. I had the opportunity to meet Ed Bradley. Late Ed Bradley was the black reporter at 60 Minutes. On 60 Minutes, I met his wife down in Tupelo, and I talked to him over the phone, and he wanted me to be his assistant. So they wanted me down in 60 Minutes, but that particular time I was with Brother Kwame Ture. I didn't want to be on 60 Minutes that particular time, but it may have been a good experience, but I passed it up. Any rate, so I was at Howard University, and at Howard University African Studies program, my first year there, I taught, I was assistant professor in the School of Communications there, while doing graduate work in the PhD program in African Studies at Howard University. I traveled overseas. I've done some other things, but main thing was that I've been seeking the truth, and I'm going to continue to seek the truth and give his people the truth. Now, my topic today is the truth about 9/11. The truth about 9/11. Okay, I was in Washington D.C. on 9/11, and just give you a little testimony. I was on a bus. I heard these black folks talking about, yeah, man, somebody planes that hit the World Trade Center and da-da-da. And I got to this job working for this housing group called Acorns. So I got to work, and the white man was at work. He was just all exuberated. Oh man, somebody hit the World Trade Center, man, knocked the World Trade. So he said, I didn't believe him either. So he said, go downstairs, man. They had a big screen TV down there. So I went down there and got on the big screen, and I saw it for the first time. And as I was watching that video of the plane circling the North Tower and the second plane circling the North Tower, something dawned on me. As I said, I have a background in film production. And, it's one thing you make a film, on the spot, something happened, nobody didn't know about it, and you pull your cameras out and film. There's a whole nother way to make a film where they plan in advance, like Hollywood films are done year and two in advance. And so they set the cameras and the lighting and the staging, in order to accomplish their goal. So after seeing that, I said, wait a minute, man, something not right here. Something's not right here. This is too good a film for this to be done just on the spot like that, okay? And I found out later I was right. Something was not right about that. As I did my research, I found out a few things that you need to know concerning 9/11. Okay, first of all, the World Trade Center was bought by a Jewish business conglomerate by the name of Larry Silverstein. Larry Silverstein had several other commercial properties in New York at that particular time. But it just so happened that Larry Silverstein decided to purchase the World Trade Center under a lease purchase agreement for 99 years. Now, you got a lease purchase for 99 years. That means you probably ain't going to pay for it. You know what I'm saying? Which he didn't. The World Trade Center was being sold for $3.5 billion, both towers. So there was a total of about $7 billion. But actually, he only paid a couple of million down, okay? And under lease purchase agreement, this 99-year lease purchase agreement. So, at any rate, it just so happened that 6 months, it was 2 months, 2 months before 9/11, he got a terrorism policy placed on this buildings, okay? Now, what I noticed was when I watching the buildings come down, was that the fact that you look at demolition tapes, and in demolition, when buildings are demolition, they go down that way. But what I found out later was that the fire chief of the city of New York had noted, along with several firemen who reported to the scene, that there were some explosions at the base of the building. Now, the mayor of New York at the time, Rudolph Giuliani, was in the basement of the building at a particular time the plane hit, but he got out. But he got out with 2 briefcases full of gold. And, the Fort Knox had moved its office to the basement of World Trade Center, so he came with that gold. That gold is still missing. Okay, but there was some explosion at the base of that building. Now, another point to take into account is that the 2 towers were held up by 2 solid steel beams. Probably more than 2, but at any rate, it was solid steel beams that held up the towers. Okay, keep in mind that jet fuel burns at 410 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, but solid steel burns at 2,500 to 2,800 degrees Fahrenheit. So you're not going to get a jet fuel fire to burn no metal beams like that. Okay, so there was some explosion at the base of that building. Okay, now, another point to take into account was that as he got these terrorism policies placed on these 2 buildings 2 months before 9/11. Okay. Now, in order to get an insurance claim on that scale, even something small, much smaller than that scale, you literally have to sue the insurance company to get your money. Okay. That's what Silverstein did. He sued the insurance company. Then he turned around and sued American and United Airlines. The 2 airlines that for the 3 planes on 9/11 was American and United. He sued the insurance company and American Airlines. Okay, the total of the lawsuit was $7 billion. $7 billion, and the insurance company didn't want to make that payment, so he had to take him to court, and he did. And it just so happened that 2 judges in 2 separate trials awarded him those remittances. And guess who appointed those judges? Rudolph Giuliani, the city mayor of New York. And don't tell me, that if a mayor, if he won that lawsuit $3.5 billion, that the mayor, he wanted to cut it out. I'm sure, So that's the thing. Now, you may say, well, are you saying that the U.S. government was involved in this? Are you saying that this Silverstein individual was involved? Yeah, he was involved because he must have been involved. He must have known in advance. Either he's a prophet. I don't believe he's a prophet and knew something was going to happen. But let me tell you this. The World Trade Center, at the time he purchased it, a couple of years prior to that, it had millions of dollars in fines, building code violations against the World Trade Center. Okay, when he bought that building, the city of New York had already planned to tear it down. Now, why would you buy a building for $7 billion that is getting ready to get torn down? Why would you buy the building? Unless you know something. Okay, unless you know something. Now, the other thing is, you had 9 hijackers, 3 hijackers on each plane. So you had 9 hijackers on those 3 airlines, okay? And none of them had pistols. They all had box cutters. Now, you get on the plane, you got to go through a metal detector, okay? Okay. But they didn't have pistols. The box cutters, the reason why they got through the metal detector, because the box cutters were already on the planes, behind the seats. Now, who did they know to get on the plane and had the box cutters behind the seats? Okay. Then it turns out that they have some a missile detection system based at the near the World Trade Center. Oh no, I was talking about. Oh no, it was not a missile detection system. Actually, what they had is a radar a form of electronic signal where they can take over control of an airplane in case, because planes are, pilots have a heart attack. Anything can happen with an airline. They have they call it it's an electronic signal that they can take control, kind of like HARP, where they use the HARP is a little different. What HARP is by the military, they use that electronic signal to actually trigger earthquakes. But that's another subject. But this particular HARP signal, electronic signal, was at one of the north towers of the World Trade Center. They can take over control of an airplane at any time they want. Okay, and so what I'm saying is that it's quite possible, and the angle which that plane hit the World Trade Center, hit it at a precise angle that most pilots weren't able to accomplish. So, point I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, that it's quite possible. I don't claim to know all these facts are true. I'm throwing out some issues that people need to research and find out. Okay, it's quite possible that pilots wasn't controlling those planes. Okay, that they was running by automatic pilot. Okay, now you saying that automatic pilot. You saying that Silverstein knew in advance. You saying the planes were operated by automatic pilot. That the air traffic control was involved. And I'm gonna say something further. I'm gonna say the Bush administration involved. I'm gonna tell you how I know. All 9 of those Muslims, quote unquote Muslims, who attended flight school down in Florida, okay, they told a flight instructor at the time took the flight training, I don't want to know how to load the plane, to drive the plane. All I want to know how to steer it. I don't know how to land it or take it. I just want to know how to steer it. The flight instructor got concerned. He called the FBI. They said the FBI questioned, who is these? Who is this you talking about? Oh, this so-and-so Muhammad. Oh, don't worry about it. We got it under surveillance. They had him under surveillance. They had him under surveillance because the leader, the one who was actually the leader of the 9/11 attack, by the way, most of you thought it was bin Laden, didn't you? You thought it was Osama bin Laden. It was not Osama bin Laden. He was not the one that orchestrated. He's the one that took advantage. He used it for his propaganda purposes. But he was not the organizer of 9/11 attacks. The man who was organizing, Google it for yourself, his name was Muhammad Atta. And he was the head of a Al-Qaeda cell in Hamburg, Germany. Okay? He's the one who orchestrated, organized the 9/11 attacks. He was killed on one of the planes, right? But no, he was not. No, he was not. He was not killed on the plane. Actually, he was brought to trial in Guantanamo. Okay, I'm gonna double check that. But I know Muhammad Atta was the one that they charged was involved, the organizer attack. And so the point I'm making is that Muhammad Atta was, by the way, all 9 of these hijackers. You thought they were Iraqis, didn't you? They were not Iraqis. All 9 of them were Saudis from Saudi Arabia, including Osama bin Laden, who was a Saudi. Okay, so why didn't they attack Saudi Arabia? Well, we know if they attacked Saudi Arabia, I mean, that's what Mecca is, and it would cause it a holy war, Muslim holy war. They were going to attack Saudi Arabia. But also they were going to attack Saudi Arabia because of America's close ties. They give billions of dollars in military aid to Saudi Arabia. Okay, that's another side of it. Okay, but the point I'm making to you now is that after the flight instructor got concerned, contacted the FBI. The FBI told him, no, we got these under surveillance. They had him under surveillance because Muhammad Atta was actually involved along with a blind Muslim cleric in the 1996 World Trade Center attack where they bombed the World Trade Center, okay, in 1996. And they charged this blind cleric with that. Okay, this blind Muslim cleric. But actually, Muhammad Atta was supposed to be involved in that. So anyway, they had him under surveillance all that time. They had Al-Qaeda under surveillance, okay? And by the way, Osama bin Laden, that's a whole nother subject. We don't have the time for that today. But Osama bin Laden was trained, backed, given military aid by the United States, okay? By the CIA in particular, okay? And he was given not millions of dollars in military aid, but billions of dollars in military aid. You say, where? Where did he get this military aid? There was a war in Afghanistan, okay, going on about that time, right before that, in the 1990s, okay? And in that war in Afghanistan, the Russians were trying to take Afghanistan. The Russians have all those little republics around me, Kyrgyzstan, and Afghanistan. And the Russians were backing the communists in Afghanistan. And America didn't want the Russians and the communists to have control of that region right around the Black Sea, have control of that oil as well as the drugs, cocaine and heroin coming through that area. So they backed the Muslims. And who were the Muslims? A Muslim group by the name of Mujahideen, which is in Islam means Arabic means soldiers of Allah, who was headed by Osama bin Laden, who got a few $1 million from his dad construction company, which they did most of the mosques and a lot of the Muslim holy sites in Mecca construction. And George Bush, his whole career was funded by the bin Ladens. That's a whole nother subject. Okay. But so he was good friends with the bin Ladens. But anyway, and by the way, the bin Ladens were at his estate in Texas at the time of 9/11. And when they shut down all the airlines, wouldn't let no planes take off of land, who you think was allowed to leave the country safely? The bin Ladens, families of the terrorists. Okay, all right. So get Michael Moore's tape, Fahrenheit 9/11. Okay, some of that's in it, but I'm getting ready to tell you stuff that Michael Moore don't even touch. Okay, in Fahrenheit 9/11. Okay, now like I told you, I was in D.C. at the time. When I heard that third plane that was headed toward the crash in Pennsylvania, that was headed toward the White House, I said, man, this guy is giving me an omen. It's time we get out of D.C. And I left D.C. shortly after, but not before the anthrax attacks, which was a few months after 9/11. And then in 2002, you had the D.C. sniper, John Muhammad, who killed a bunch of folk in D.C. on 2002. And I was there for that too. God put me in some spots, I tell you. But he had a hedge over my head. I'm still here to tell you about it. Okay, so now, the FBI was warned about it. The Bush administration had close ties with the bin Ladens. Now, and I'm gonna do a whole tape on some background of bin Laden, because bin Laden got millions of dollars in military aid and was trading arms and drugs. But with the trick he ran, really he ran it at odds with the U.S. The U.S. wanted to they hoped they could use him so they could move into Afghanistan and take control. But bin Laden ran a trick on him. He went up to Pakistan and got the top. He ran the Russians out. He beat the Russians. But he went up to Pakistan. And for Osama to beat the Russians, he had to have some serious military aid to beat the Russians. Come on. One of the most powerful military powers in the world. And then think about this now. Think about this. I heard Dick Gregory say something. Dick Gregory was always dropping some powerful truth. Dick Gregory was talking about Somalia. He said, now you got these Somalian warlords, and some of them times they hijack fishers, big fishery ships. You know, that's the largest fishing area in the world, right around Somalia and Yucatan. You know, I know all these. You may ask the question, how you know all these facts? Because I was trained by the top dogs. Okay, my professor at Howard University was the Attorney General of Ethiopia. Okay, so I'm just and then I had Dick Gregory, I had Rabbi Ben Amin, I had a number of people. I was in D.C. at a time when all the great African scholars were coming through there. So I'm just a student. All I am just a student. Okay, so any rate, Dick Gregory mentioned that these warlords in Somalia, when they got captured, they found out they had holes in their pants. They had holes in their shoes, couldn't even afford shoes. But these warlords had $75,000, $80,000 militia costs. Now, who was buying these militia costs for these warlords in Somalia? Okay, now backing up, bin Laden ran the Russians out of Afghanistan, his group. But then he turned around and turned on the U.S. and got the Taliban and brought them down into Afghanistan. And the Taliban are extremists. They go by the extreme followers of the Quran. So they don't let women have to cover their faces. They don't let women get education. They're really, really extreme. Okay, so he brought them down. Now he fell out of odds with you got the House of Saud in Saudi Arabia. and this so-called prince, whoever his name is, Abdullah. And there was some conflict with the House of Saud going back during the time of Malcolm X. There was some, and he kind of had got involved with them, to his demise. But at any rate, the Saudis had allowed the U.S. to set up a military base right near Mecca, the Muslim Holy Land, and as a result, Bin Laden was really ticked off, and so he got, he was arguing with Abdullah, the premier of Saudi Arabia, about America having a military base right next to the Muslim Holy Land. And so, Abdullah was like, man, you ain't got nothing to do with this. We done made this deal with America, our masters. And he didn't say it that way, but you know what he meant. We ain't, they want a base here, they're gonna have it here. And so we need it for defense. And then Bin Laden said, well, I'll defend, I got military backing from the U.S. and all this. I'll defend the Muslim Holy Land. And, they fell out. And so I do believe the first terrorist attack that Bin Laden made was against the United States, was made on the U.S. military base in Saudi Arabia. It was later on the one in Yemen. The one in Yemen, they had one in Yemen. The USS Cole was attacked in Yemen, and Bin Laden had a hand in that too. But the point I'm making is that then he became public enemy #1. Now, if you notice, Bin Laden is making these tapes all during. Oh, by the way, let me back up. I'm sorry. Let me back up. Because you may ask the question, well, why would the Bush administration be involved? Why would they, get involved in this? You accusing them? Yes, I'm accusing them. Okay, I'm gonna tell you why. Okay, before Bush got elected, Bush, this Queen of England just died, right? And the Bush family is in the same family as the Queen of England, whatever her name was, Elizabeth II. So they're in the same family, the Bush family. So at any rate, so Bush, in a British magazine, 2 years before Bush got elected, Bush came in after Clinton. So we talking 1996, around 2000. Yeah, when Bush came in, right? Around 2000. But in 1999, on a British magazine, on the cover of the British magazine, it said, George Bush, next president of the United States. Now, how did they know? Because there was a project called, a foreign policy proposal that they submitted to Clinton at the time, but Clinton didn't go for it. They submit, but all the signatories of this foreign policy proposal were the top cabinet members in the Bush cabinet, which included Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, Dick Cheney, who was the vice president. They were all signatories of this foreign policy proposal. I'll come back to me the name of it. But at any rate, this is in 1999 now. They were talking about regime change in Iraq. Now, let me back up. You need to know a little something about Saddam Hussein for me to make my point home. Who is Saddam Hussein? Saddam Hussein, and how did he come to power in Iraq? Saddam Hussein was over the Iraqi, was comparable to our CIA, the U.S. CIA. He was over that intelligence operation in Iraq, and I believe it was his brother-in-law who was president. But America backed him in a coup. He killed the brother or the brother-in-law, whoever it was, and became president, okay? And when Saddam Hussein, he wasn't elected, well, no democracy, you know what I'm saying? Neither is that Abdullah over there in Saudi Arabia, he wasn't elected either, okay? So when they come talking about this democracy stuff, yeah, in selected places, they for democracy, okay? But at any rate, so when Saddam Hussein took power, America backed him up for one purpose, to take out Imam Khomeini, Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran, who, and I'm gonna do a whole tape on the history of Iran because that's important. This relates to us 100%, and many of us went over there and died in that war. Okay, black folks. So at any rate, Iran, when Khomeini came to power in Iran, and it's a long story about how he came to power, he took out the Shah. And he was backed by the students, and get up with that PBS tape, the Iranian Revolution. That gives you some history on that. But at any rate, that's not my subject today. But when Khomeini came to power, Khomeini declared war on all his Muslim neighbors. He claimed war on Muslims. He didn't declare war on Christians. He claimed war on Muslims because he considered them fake Muslims. And in all them little republics like Yemen, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, all the little Muslim little republics there, they got sheiks who are filthy rich, billionaires, making money from oil trade and this kind of thing, and the people just suffering in squalor. Okay, particularly in Yemen, you got the Yemenites of Ethiopian descent, and because Yemen was actually a kingdom of the Queen of Sheba of Ethiopia. That's another subject. But at any rate, so Bin Laden, well, some of the Yemenites. So they backed Saddam Hussein. They backed all these little republics. So Khomeini, Ayatollah Khomeini, declared war on all of them, and said that we're gonna take out each one. And he was stirring up revolution in all those countries. He said your government making deals with America, the enemies of the Quran, the enemies of Islam, take them out. Okay, and he was stirring up revolution in all those countries. Saddam Hussein was given poison gas. They talk about weapons of mass destruction. He had some now. He had some weapons of mass destruction. But guess who supplied them? We did. The United States government supplied them. And there's several books that were out. I'm trying to remember the name of the one. But message me, I'll get you the name of this book. That outlines 500 pages. Outlines the specific biological weapons supplied. But I know poison gas was one of them. They used on Iran. He killed thousands of Iranians with his poison gas. Okay, Saddam Hussein did. That was supplied from us, from the United States. Okay, so anyway, but what happened was Saddam was making all these deals with U.S. oil companies to come in there, and their whole idea, they were backing Saddam so they could take control of the whole Middle Eastern oil. And Saddam had cut deals with different oil companies, and if you remember when they invaded Iraq, they found all these palaces where they had gold piled up. Saddam had piled up all this gold. Some of the soldiers ended up taking some of that gold, some of the captives. But the point I'm making is that he was giving Bush oil credits. And matter of fact, he was giving, this is Bush Sr. now, not Bush Jr., Bush Sr. He was giving them oil credits and whatnot. And so what happened was some of his advisors, Kuwait is a little area of Iraq that the British had carved out where most of the oil is. So his advisors told him, said, man, look, you take Kuwait, and you have enough oil, you don't need U.S. oil companies. That's when Saddam decided to move into Kuwait. And old Bush got about 6 or 7 armies together and got him out of Kuwait, but he didn't get him out of power. So Bush Jr. came in to take him out of power. And they had to have an excuse. I just told you, all 9 of those hijackers, all 9 of them were Saudis. None were Iraqis. So what did Iraq have to do? It had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11. So why did they attack Iraq? They had already planned to attack Iraq because they had already planned to take out Saddam Hussein, and they needed an excuse. They always need an excuse for war. They always need an excuse for war, okay? Just like the war going on now. I'm going to make a tape on this. I'm going to make a tape on this and look forward to it on this war in Ukraine. Because there's another thing that was planned out, okay? But the point I'm making is that they needed to take him out, and they had needed an excuse. This was their excuse. He was involved in that. Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein never got along. They had totally different, one was Shiite, one was Sunni. They had totally different views on Islam. They were enemies and not friends. They had nothing to do with each other. And when bin Laden was looking for a hiding place, where did he go? He went to Sudan for a while. For a while. And that's the reason why Bill Clinton, or was that George Bush? Well, Bill Clinton had attacked Sudan for another reason, because he claimed they had biological weapons, which actually they were making malaria medications, and he destroyed the lab where they had malaria medications, and that was the reason why Clinton attacked Sudan. But Bush, they did one attack on Somalia. They did attack on Somalia. There's a movie that came out called Black Hawk Down about the attack on Somalia. Pardon me. Attack on Somalia, and you can get that movie, that documentary. It's a great documentary, PBS documentary called Black Hawk Down. But at any rate, bin Laden was making tapes, And if you notice the tapes, all these tapes he was making, he would show you the background, okay? Now, I'm going to bring up Dick Gregory again. Dick Gregory told us, he said, man, don't you know they can find a mosquito in the Brazilian rainforest? They got enough technology now. The CIA got enough satellite technology. They can find a mosquito in the Amazon rainforest. So you're gonna tell me Bin Laden making all these tapes showing him where he at, pretty much. No, he didn't give him the city and all that, but he showing the background where. But they can't never get Bin Laden. Can't never get him. And then finally, when Barack Obama comes to power and he gets Bin Laden, they're really mad. They're really mad at it, especially the Bush administration. They're mad at him because they didn't want to get Bin Laden. As long as Bin Laden was the best fundraiser that the Bush administration ever had. Because as long as you got a stool pigeon out there doing little terrorist attacks, attacking other Muslims, that's basically what he was doing, attacking other Muslims. That's exactly, and then selling drugs because he was a drug dealer too. Doing those, and so as long as you got him out there, you got the boogeyman you need to back up your military machine, and that's basically what they were doing. Your military war machine. Okay, so the point I'm making here is that 9/11 was staged. You had 3 airlines that struck. Two struck the World Trade Center. 4 airlines, excuse me. 2 in the World Trade Center. 1 struck the Pentagon. Now, I don't have all the facts on this to back this up, so this is just theory. This was just theory concerning the Pentagon. But some people say that the plane didn't hit the Pentagon. I know the dog sniffers sniffed, the air where it was no body parts. Okay. I know there was 2 light poles that were 28 feet apart, and the wingspan of that plane in that parking lot is more than 28 feet, and it didn't knock down those light poles. I know that the air that the plane that's supposed to hit the Pentagon hit the air under construction. None of the generals were killed. I think one general may have been killed, but most